Princess Lyra sat at the edge of the floating balcony, her gaze sweeping across the endless violet clouds that stretched under the islands of Zephora. The wind tugged at her silver hair, but she didn't notice it. Today, the council had summoned her with an important request, an alliance through marriage. For generations, Zephora's leaders had secured power and peace by marrying into influential families of other planets. But Lyra had never wanted that life. She wanted freedom, adventure, and a world where her choices were truly her own. Her advisors waited in the great hall, their robes shimmering with symbols of authority. They spoke of duty, of honor, of the future of Zephora. "Princess," one said, "this marriage will secure peace for decades. Refusing is not only unwise, it is reckless." Lyra's green eyes narrowed. "I am the future of Zephora," she replied calmly. "But I will not marry for politics. I will not spend my life as a pawn for ambition." Her voice carried across the hall, firm and unwavering. The silence that followed was heavy. No one had dared speak this way before. Not even a princess. The council exchanged worried glances. "Princess Lyra," another began cautiously, "your decision could destabilize the alliance. You must consider your people's safety." She shook her head. "I will consider them," she said softly, "but not at the cost of my freedom." With that, she turned and left, her long cloak flowing behind her, leaving her advisors muttering in frustration. While the council debated, far away on a small blue planet called Earth, Captain Alex Carter adjusted the controls of his ship. He was testing a new propulsion system designed to explore distant sectors of space. The stars outside the window shone like scattered diamonds, each one a promise of adventure. Suddenly, an unstable wormhole appeared directly in their path. The alarms blared, and Alex fought to stabilize the ship, but the pull was too strong. The vessel lurched violently, lights flickered, and everything went black. When he awoke, Alex found himself in a strange place. The sky glowed in shades of purple and orange, and enormous floating islands hovered in the distance. His ship had crash-landed, scratched and battered, on solid ground that felt alive under his hands. He quickly checked the systems. Most were damaged beyond repair. Alone, he had no choice but to venture out and find help, or at least shelter. As Alex stepped into the alien world, he noticed strange plants glowing softly, and creatures moving gracefully in the distance. He felt a mix of awe and caution. This world was unlike anything he had ever seen. The atmosphere was breathable, and the air was crisp, but everything else was foreign. He took out a small holographic map, hoping to find a nearby settlement. That was when he noticed movement in the clouds above a figure observing him from a floating balcony. Princess Lyra's curiosity had brought her there. She had heard of the human's arrival from her scouts and wanted to see him for herself. She expected a timid explorer, unprepared for the complexities of her world. Instead, she saw a man who stood tall, scanning the surroundings with alert eyes, carefully assessing each detail. There was something different about him, a calm bravery that she had never witnessed in her people. Lyra's fascination grew when Alex stumbled across a small pit trap concealed by alien vines. He paused, thinking quickly, and used a branch to test the ground before stepping forward. His caution, combined with a quiet confidence, impressed her. She had always believed humans were fragile and unsophisticated. This one challenged her assumptions. For hours, Lyra watched as Alex navigated the strange terrain, avoiding dangers and helping small injured creatures along the way. He was careful but compassionate, resourceful but humble. When a large predator suddenly emerged, its eyes glowing red in the twilight, Alex didn't panic. He used a combination of makeshift tools and clever tactics to distract it, giving himself time to escape. Lyra's heart raced not with fear for herself, but with admiration for this human who seemed so ordinary and yet so extraordinary at the same time. By evening, Alex found a safe spot near a crystalline stream, exhausted but unharmed. He activated a small beacon, hoping anyone might find him. Unbeknownst to him, Lyra had quietly descended closer, keeping her presence hidden. She wanted to study him, understand what made him different. And as she observed, she realized that this human did not act out of ambition or fear. Every decision he made was guided by instinct, empathy, and courage, qualities she had always admired, but rarely seen in her world. The council in her palace continued their insistence on marriage. They did not understand why she had suddenly become interested in a human. To them, he was nothing more than a curiosity, a guest who had accidentally landed on their planet. But Lyra saw potential in him, a light that could not be ignored. She felt something stir in her heart, a mix of wonder, respect, and a strange, unspoken connection. That night, as the twin moons of Zyphora rose high in the sky, Lyra returned to her chambers. She could not stop thinking about the human. His resilience, his cleverness, his compassion, it all lingered in her mind. For the first time, she felt that her life could change in a way she never expected. The future she had always imagined, full of rules and obligations, suddenly seemed limited compared to the possibilities that now appeared. Alex, unaware of the princess observing him from afar, fell asleep under the strange sky. He dreamt of stars and worlds beyond imagining. Unaware that he had already captured the attention of Zyphora's most important figure, a connection had formed, silent and subtle, that neither fully understood yet. By the time the first light of Zyphora's sun painted the clouds in pink and gold, Lyra had made a decision. She would not be swayed by council politics, by pressure, or by tradition. She would follow her heart, even if it led her to the unexpected and the unknown. And for some reason, she felt certain that the human she had observed would be part of that journey. The day of her life, and perhaps the fate of Zyphora itself, was about to change forever. The morning air on Zyphora was crisp and alive, carrying the scent of strange flowers and the faint hum of energy from the floating islands. Captain Alex Carter awoke beneath a canopy of glowing plants, the light filtering through the leaves, painting the ground in soft colors. He stretched and rubbed his eyes, realizing he had survived the night alone on an alien planet. His mind raced with questions. How did he get here? Was anyone looking for him? And most importantly, what dangers still lurked in this unfamiliar world? Alex rose carefully, checking his surroundings. The crash had left his ship damaged beyond immediate repair. But he was resourceful. He began scouting a safe route toward the nearest settlement he could find on his makeshift map. Every step he took revealed Zyphora's unusual beauty. The ground pulsed with faint energy, the air shimmered with light, and the plants seemed almost alive, shifting slightly as if aware of his presence. He could not shake the feeling that he was being observed. High above, on one of the floating islands, Princess Lyra watched him silently. She had spent the night thinking about the human. His calm focus, his awareness, his resilience, they had all impressed her deeply. She wanted to see more, to understand how someone so different from her people could act with such balance and intelligence. She descended cautiously, using pathways and platforms known only to the royal family, keeping herself hidden from Alex. Alex moved carefully, avoiding a narrow cliff edge, and suddenly paused. A small group of creatures, no larger than a cat, but with glowing eyes and sharp claws, emerged from the underbrush. They hissed and circled him, testing his reaction. Alex quickly scanned the area and noticed a cluster of luminous stones nearby. With careful precision, he used the stones to create a small barrier, distracting the creatures. He did not harm them. He simply redirected them away from his path. Lyra's eyes widened. Humans were often reckless in unfamiliar environments, but this one observed, analyzed, and acted with respect. He solved problems without violence, unless necessary, and even then, with intelligence. She felt her admiration grow, though she tried to remind herself she was only observing. Hours passed, and Alex finally reached a plateau that overlooked a crystalline lake. Exhausted, he sat and drank from the water, marveling at the clarity and the colors reflecting from the sky. He allowed himself a moment of calm, unaware that Princess Lyra had approached closer than ever before. She stepped onto the plateau silently, her presence barely disturbing the soft breeze. Alex felt a sudden awareness, as if someone was watching him. But when he looked up, he saw no one. Then, from the corner of his eye, he noticed movement. A figure standing partially behind a rock formation. He straightened and held his hands out in a gesture of peace. "Hello," he called softly. "I don't mean any harm." Lyra's heart skipped. She had not expected him to notice her so quickly. Yet the way he spoke, calmly and without fear, drew her closer. She revealed herself fully, stepping into the light. Alex's eyes widened in surprise. He had not expected to see a being of such elegance and presence, not in the middle of a strange wilderness. Lyra smiled faintly, her green eyes studying him. "You are human," she said, almost as if confirming a thought she had already formed. "Yes," Alex replied, standing and straightening his jacket, trying to hide the awe he felt in her presence. "I am, and you are." He hesitated, unsure how to address royalty in a world so unlike his own. "I am Lyra," she said simply, ignoring formalities. "Princess of Zyphora. And you are far from home." Alex nodded. "That is true. I was testing a new ship system, and something went wrong. I ended up here, and I am trying to survive until I can find help." He looked around at the floating islands and strange wildlife. "This place, it's incredible." Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest. Most beings she had met would be intimidated or scared, but Alex carried curiosity, courage, and respect, all at once. "This world is dangerous," she said. "You do not belong here, yet you handle it well. That is unusual for your kind." Alex smiled faintly. "I've learned to adapt. You have to, if you want to survive." They walked together along the edge of the plateau, Lyra observing him carefully. He moved with care, noticing small details, the way the ground pulsed with energy, the strange markings on rocks, and the behavior of the creatures they passed. Every observation, every decision, revealed his intelligence and thoughtfulness. Lyra felt drawn to him, not by duty or expectation, but by genuine admiration. At one point, they encountered a narrow canyon. A bridge made of flexible crystalline strands connected the two sides, swaying slightly with the wind. Alex paused, studying the structure. "I've crossed shaky bridges before," he said, "but this one looks tricky." Lyra, sensing his hesitation, stepped forward. "And calm. All of which you seem to have." Alex looked at her, a mixture of surprise and appreciation on his face. "Thank you. That helps." He stepped carefully onto the bridge, testing each strand with his weight. Lyra followed, moving gracefully beside him, guiding him with small gestures when the wind threatened to push him off balance. When they reached the other side safely, Lyra smiled. "You are more capable than I imagined. And you are braver than anyone I've met," Alex replied honestly. "I did not expect to meet a princess in the wilderness." Lyra laughed softly, a sound like wind through crystal towers. "I am not most princesses," she said. "I do not live by rules, but by what I believe is right." The moment was interrupted by a distant roar. A larger creature, darker and more menacing than those before, approached from the horizon. Alex's eyes sharpened. "Stay behind me," he said instinctively, scanning for options. Lyra, instead of stepping back, drew herself up proudly. "I will not hide. If you fail, I fail with you." Alex nodded, understanding her courage. Together, they used the terrain to their advantage. Alex's quick thinking and Lyra's knowledge of the environment allowed them to evade the creature, eventually causing it to retreat back into the shadows. When it was gone, they both exhaled. A shared sense of triumph, connecting them, silently. For the first time, Lyra realized that this human was not just impressive, he was extraordinary, not because of power or technology, but because of his courage, his intelligence, and his ability to act with honor in a world that could easily overwhelm him. She felt a certainty in her heart she had never felt before. And in that moment, Lyra knew that everything was about to change. After their encounter with the menacing creature, Lyra and Alex continued their journey across Zyphora, moving through terrain that grew wilder and more mysterious with every step. Floating islands loomed above them, like massive sentinels, casting shadows over glowing rivers and crystalline forests. Every detail fascinated Alex: plants that seemed to breathe light, stones that hummed when touched, and the strange wildlife that moved with both grace and caution. Lyra moved beside him with quiet confidence, clearly in her element. "You are amazing," Alex said, as they navigated a narrow path along a cliff. "I've never seen anyone handle this world with such ease." Lyra smiled faintly. "I've lived here all my life, but I've never met a human like you. You think carefully, act wisely, and yet, you are not afraid to try. That is rare." Alex shrugged modestly. "I just try to survive, and help where I can." He glanced at her, noticing the determination in her eyes. "But you are different. You are not just surviving. You are shaping this world, shaping yourself." Lyra's heart stirred. Humans rarely spoke with such insight, and yet Alex seemed to understand her more than anyone else ever had. She felt drawn to him in a way that confused her. For years, she had resisted every arranged match, every political expectation. And now, she realized she was considering something she never thought possible: choosing someone because she truly admired and trusted them. As they traveled, they came upon a small settlement hidden within a valley. The buildings were made of luminous stone, designed to grow naturally with the land. Residents paused and stared at Alex, whispering among themselves. Humans were almost legendary in this part of the galaxy, and to see one alive and moving freely was extraordinary. Lyra noticed the attention but did not hesitate. She led Alex through the streets, explaining customs, and guiding him to a safe place to rest. That evening, as the twin moons rose over the valley, Lyra and Alex sat by a glowing stream, sharing stories of their worlds. Alex spoke of Earth, its oceans, cities, and people. Lyra listened with fascination, surprised at how different his world was, yet how familiar the emotions he described felt. "I never imagined humans could be so thoughtful," she said quietly. "I thought you would be reckless, loud, or cruel. But you are none of these things." Alex smiled. "I've learned that survival isn't just about strength. It's about thinking, helping, and respecting life. I try to do the right thing." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest she had never felt before. His words resonated with her, reflecting values she had always cherished, but rarely seen in her own people. She realized that she admired not just his courage, but his heart. The night was peaceful, until a sudden alarm echoed through the valley. Strange drones, alien to both Lyra and Alex, appeared on the horizon. They moved quickly, scanning for intruders. Lyra frowned. "These are reconnaissance drones. Someone is searching for you or me." Alex stood quickly. "Then, we need to move. Can you show me another safe path?" Lyra nodded. She led him through hidden passages known only to the royal family, twisting paths through forests of luminous trees and across bridges suspended in midair. Alex followed closely, learning quickly from her guidance. Every obstacle they overcame together strengthened their trust and respect for one another. Finally, They reached a hidden cave. Inside, the walls glowed faintly, and small streams of energy ran along the rocks, illuminating their surroundings. Alex examined the area with curiosity. "This place is incredible," he said. "It feels alive." Lyra nodded. "It is." Zyphora responds to those who respect it. "You have already passed its first test." She paused, studying him. "You are not like anyone I have ever met. You think, you act, and you care. That is rare. That is admirable." Alex met her gaze. "And you are the bravest person I have ever met. You face danger without hesitation. Guide me through this world, and trust me. I am grateful." The words lingered in the air. Both of them felt a connection, deepening, silent, strong, and undeniable. Neither had expected to feel this way so quickly, yet it was impossible to ignore. As the night wore on, they discussed their hopes and fears. Lyra revealed her frustration with court politics, the constant pressure to marry for duty rather than desire, and the loneliness that came with leadership. Alex listened intently, never judging, always understanding. He shared his own challenges, the responsibilities of exploration, and the uncertainty of venturing into the unknown. By dawn, a quiet understanding had formed between them. They were allies, companions, and perhaps something more. Lyra felt something she had never felt before, confidence that she could choose her own path, and a growing certainty that Alex was a part of it. Their moment of peace was broken by distant shouts. Figures appeared on the horizon, members of the royal council who had tracked Lyra, concerned about her absence and suspicious of the human. Lyra's eyes hardened. She had known this day would come, that her choices would not be accepted easily. Alex placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We can face this together," he said calmly. "Whatever they think, you are not alone." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of her position but also the strength of their bond. Together, they moved forward, confronting the council with courage and clarity. Lyra spoke for herself for the first time, declaring that she would make her own decisions, and Alex stood beside her, a steady presence that inspired both fear and respect in those who doubted her. For the first time, Lyra realized that she did not need to rely on politics, tradition, or fear to navigate her world. With a human who acted with honor and bravery, she felt capable of facing any challenge. And deep inside, she knew that her life, and perhaps the future of Zyphora, was about to change in ways she had never imagined. As they left the valley, their bond solidified. Lyra had begun to see Alex not as an intruder or a curiosity, but as someone extraordinary, someone whose presence could alter the course of her life. And Alex, in turn, saw Lyra not just as royalty, but as a leader, a companion, and a person whose courage and heart matched the challenges of the universe itself. The day on Zyphora was bright, but tension hung in the air like a storm ready to break. Lyra walked beside Alex as they left the hidden valley, her thoughts weighed down by the council's disapproval. Every step they took reminded her that choosing a human companion was not just unusual, it was controversial. The council would see Alex as an intruder, a threat to the carefully maintained order of her world. Yet, as she looked at him, standing tall and calm beside her, she felt courage she had never felt before. Alex noticed her quiet tension. "Lyra," he said gently, "whatever comes, we will face it together. I trust you, and I will stand with you." Lyra smiled faintly, drawing strength from his words. "Thank you, Alex. It is not only the council I must face, but the expectations of every person who believes I should follow tradition. I cannot ignore that." Well, their path took them toward the city where the council had convened. Citizens moved about their day, glancing curiously at the human who walked beside the princess. Some whispered, others stared, openly. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and even the bravest residents were unsure what to think of one walking freely with their royal leader. As they entered the grand city, Lyra noticed the guards' stiff expressions. The council had likely sent word ahead of their approach. Alex stayed close, sensing the tension and understanding that this was more than a political matter. It was a test of trust, courage, and unity. When they reached the council chamber, the advisors were already present, their expressions a mix of anger, fear, and disbelief. Lyra stepped forward, her posture regal but firm. "I am here to speak for myself," she said clearly, her voice echoing through the grand hall. "I will make my own decisions. I will not be bound by alliances, obligations, or expectations that ignore my choice." A senior council member stood abruptly. "Princess, you cannot act without considering the consequences. Choosing a human as your companion, someone unproven in our ways, is reckless and dangerous." Lyra's green eyes flashed. "And ignoring my own judgment is more dangerous. Alex has proven himself, not by birth or position, but by courage, intelligence, and integrity. He respects this world, its people, and me. That is more than many here have shown." Alex felt a surge of pride, but remained humble. "I do not claim power or authority here," he said steadily. "I have only acted with what I know is right. I stand with Lyra because I believe in her and what she chooses. Nothing more." Murmurs spread through the council. Some were impressed by Alex's honesty and composure, while others bristled at the idea of a human influencing royal decisions. Lyra ignored them, focusing instead on the certainty she felt in her heart. This human, this extraordinary being, had earned her trust and admiration. That was enough. The council attempted to intimidate her, presenting arguments about alliances, threats, and potential unrest. Lyra listened patiently, then responded with calm authority. "The strength of a leader is not in following what others demand, but in knowing what is right. I will not marry for politics. I will choose my companion, and I choose Alex." A hush fell over the room. Some council members gasped. Others exchanged glances of disbelief. It was unheard of for a princess to defy tradition so openly. Yet the certainty in Lyra's voice left no room for argument. One advisor, more stubborn than the rest, spoke loudly. "You cannot ignore the history and the expectations of our people. You must reconsider." Lyra stepped closer, her presence commanding. "I will not reconsider. I choose my own path. Alex has shown himself worthy of trust, courage, and respect. That is more than any political arrangement can guarantee. This decision is final." Alex placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "I stand by you, Lyra. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The council remained silent for a long moment. Slowly, some members began to nod, seeing that Lyra's decision was unwavering and that Alex's character was undeniable. Others continued to protest quietly, but they could not change her mind. She had made her choice, and it was clear that it was not to be swayed. As the meeting concluded, Lyra and Alex left the chamber. Outside, citizens gathered, murmuring and whispering about the human who had captured the princess's attention. Some were skeptical, others curious, and a few were inspired by the courage it took to choose freely in a world dominated by tradition. Lyra felt the weight of their eyes, but also a strange sense of freedom. She had made her choice, and she would face whatever came with courage. Alex walked beside her, calm and steady, a presence that reminded her she was not alone. They spent the evening walking through the city, observing the reactions of those around them. Lyra noticed that while some were resistant, others were beginning to respect the strength it took to follow one's own heart. Alex, ever perceptive, spoke softly. "Change is never easy. But people will respect courage and honesty more than fear. Redder Phasers people, People will respected form. Change is never easy. Calm for the form. Lyra nodded. I hope you are right. This world has rules and expectations that bind so many, but I cannot let them bind me. Not when the truth of my heart is so clear. As night fell, the city glowed with lights that reflected from floating towers and crystalline rivers. They found a quiet terrace overlooking the horizon, where the stars mirrored the glowing landscape below. Lyra turned to Alex, her eyes reflecting the light of Zyphora's twin moons. You have shown me something I never believed possible, she said softly. I thought freedom and choice were limited to my own people. But you have reminded me that courage and heart know no boundaries. Alex smiled. And you have shown me that leadership and bravery are not just about power or skill, but about making choices that are true to yourself. Lyra felt a warmth she could not describe. The council's pressures, the whispers of the city, and the weight of tradition seemed distant now. For the first time, she felt completely confident in her choice. She had found someone who did not just impress her with skill or intelligence, but who inspired her with his heart. The night passed quietly, but the bond between them grew stronger. They spoke, laughed, and shared moments of quiet reflection, learning about each other in ways that went beyond words. Every glance, every shared thought, strengthened their connection and made it clear that their lives were intertwined in a way neither could ignore. By dawn, Lyra knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, council disapproval, political unrest, or the skepticism of her people, she would face them with Alex by her side. His courage, wisdom, and humanity had already earned her trust, and she had no doubt that together they could overcome any obstacle. For the first time, Lyra felt that her life was truly hers to choose. And as she looked at the humans standing beside her, ready to face the future together, she knew that this choice would change not only her destiny but the future of Zyphora itself. The morning sun rose over Zyphora, casting a warm glow on the floating islands and the city below. Today was not an ordinary day. It was the day Lyra would make her choice known to the entire planet. Citizens gathered in the central plaza, curious and uncertain. As rumors of the human companion had spread far and wide, there was tension in the air, but also a quiet anticipation. Many wondered if the princess would truly defy tradition, or if she would bow to expectation. Lyra stood at the balcony of the palace, her silver hair catching the sunlight. She looked over the crowd with calm certainty. Beside her, Alex stood quietly, observing the people with curiosity and respect. He did not speak of the expectations or politics. He only offered silent support, knowing that Lyra's strength was in her conviction. When the signal was given, Lyra stepped forward onto the grand stage, her presence commanding attention. The crowd fell silent. Every eye was on her, waiting, expecting, questioning. She held her head high, her voice steady as she began to speak. My people, she said. For generations, our leaders have made choices for us, guided by politics and alliances. Today, I stand before you to say that I will make my own choice. I will not marry for duty alone. I will marry for respect, for trust, and for courage. I have found someone who embodies these qualities. His name is Alex Carter, a human who has shown bravery, wisdom, and honor. A murmur ran through the crowd. Humans were rare, almost legendary, in this part of the galaxy. Many were unsure what to think. Some were shocked, others curious, and a few began to smile, sensing the sincerity in Lyra's words. Alex stepped forward, his posture humble but confident. I do not seek power or title, he said clearly. I have only acted with what I believe is right. I stand beside Lyra because I trust her, and because I respect this world and its people. That is all I ask. Lyra's eyes met his, and in that moment, The connection they had formed was clear to everyone. It was not a union of convenience, politics, or tradition. It was a union of mutual respect, trust, and understanding. The council, who had once opposed her choice, watched silently. Some still hesitated, unable to comprehend a decision so bold. Yet even they could not deny the strength in her voice, the certainty in her heart, and the honor of the human standing beside her. Slowly, a few council members began to nod, seeing that the future of Zyphora might indeed be brighter with such courage leading it. Lyra extended her hand to Alex. "Will you stand with me? Not as a visitor, not as an outsider, but as someone I trust, respect, and admire." Alex took her hand without hesitation. "I will," he said firmly. "I choose this path, and I choose you. I choose you." A cheer erupted from the crowd. Some citizens cried with joy, others clapped loudly, and a few who had doubted began to smile. The princess's choice had not only defied tradition, but it had inspired hope and admiration. People realized that courage, respect, and honesty were more important than fear or expectation. The ceremony that followed was unlike any seen before on Zyphora. The air was filled with music that shimmered with light, floating petals that glowed softly, and a sense of unity and celebration. Lyra and Alex walked together through the plaza, acknowledging the people, not as ruler and subject, but as equals, as companions who had chosen each other freely. Alex was fascinated by the customs, the beauty of the celebration, and the way Lyra's people began to accept him. He felt honored, not because of status or title, but because he had earned their respect through his actions and character. Lyra watched him, her heart full, knowing that this human had changed her world, not through force or power, but through courage, kindness, and integrity. As the ceremony concluded, Lyra addressed the people once more. "This day is not only about me and Alex," she said. "It is about the courage to make choices freely, the strength to follow what is right, and the power of trust. May we all remember that the heart, intelligence, and honor of one individual can inspire a world to be better." The crowd erupted again, louder this time, celebrating not just the union of two beings from different worlds, but the union of courage, trust, and hope. Lyra felt the weight of tradition lift from her shoulders. She had chosen her own path, and it was the right one. After the public ceremony, Lyra and Alex retreated to a quieter space, a terrace overlooking the city and the floating islands beyond. The light of the twin moons reflected in the streams below, creating a serene and magical scene. They stood together, holding hands, and looked out at the horizon. "You have changed everything," Lyra said softly, her voice filled with gratitude. "Not just for me, but for this world. People will remember this day for generations." Alex shook his head with a humble smile. "I did nothing extraordinary. I only acted with what I thought was right. But standing beside you, that has made everything extraordinary for me." Lyra laughed softly, a sound like wind over crystal towers. "You make even ordinary actions seem heroic. I am glad you are here, Alex. More than I can say." Alex looked at her, his eyes reflecting both admiration and affection. "And I am glad I am here, Lyra, with you. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The days that followed were filled with joy and adaptation. Alex learned the ways of Zyphora, from navigating the floating islands to understanding the delicate balance of its ecosystems. Lyra guided him patiently, teaching him not only the skills needed to survive, but the respect and wisdom of her people. In return, Alex shared stories of Earth, its lessons, and the ingenuity of humanity. The bond between them grew stronger with every passing day. They explored the cities, the forests, and the floating islands together. Citizens began to accept Alex, seeing not a foreigner, but a human who embodied courage, honor, and respect. Lyra's choice became a symbol, a reminder that true leadership and strength come from heart and character, not just tradition or power. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in gold and violet, Lyra and Alex stood on a cliff overlooking the clouds. The wind tousled their hair, and the world stretched endlessly before them. Lyra turned to Alex. "Whatever the future holds," she said, "I know we can face it. Together." Alex took her hand, squeezing it gently. "Yes, together." And as the stars began to shimmer in Zyphora's twin moons, the princess and the human stood side by side, ready to embrace a future of their own, choosing a future of courage, trust, and the extraordinary bond that had changed a world. The story of Lyra and Alex became a legend, not because of power or titles, but because of the strength of heart, the bravery to follow one's own path, and the extraordinary courage of a human who showed that even the smallest acts of honor could inspire greatness across the stars.